Hi, I'm Scarlett and welcome to my first unboxing video. Courtesy of...
Box in a Box! Whoa! The world's first totally exclusive Papa Nerd Culture loot box service that neatly packages your products in a box and then delivers your box in its very own custom box to ensure that your box doesn't get damaged during transit when it comes into contact with other boxes. This month's theme is Mystery Box! Only $99.99.
So let's see what goodies we have this month. Opening the first box. First box is open. Removing the second box. Alright everybody, this is really exciting. I'm now opening the second box. Whoa! Who are you and what are you doing in my video? I mean, house.
You opened the box. We came.
We? There's only one of you.
Yeah, well, we're a little understaffed at the moment, alright? They didn't even have time to finish putting my freaking pins in.
Right.
Silence.
Ugh.
Prepare for experiences beyond the bounds of known human limits.
Pretty sure that's not what I ordered.
Pleasure. Pain.
I'm not watching all of these. I never asked for this.
Oh, but you did. We have such trash to show you.
Happy Helloween, everybody! In 1986, a handsome young writer named Clive Barker released a cosmic horror novella about an old house, a dysfunctional family, a puzzle box, and a group of sadomasochistic interdimensional demons known as the Cenobites called the Hellbound Heart. A romantic modern gothic tale of family, betrayal, sexuality, the occult, and experiences beyond the knowable limits of human pleasure and pain. Demons to some, angels to others. The following year, Barker brought us a wonderful low-budget film version of this novella called Hellraiser. After seeing raw dailies from the shoot, the execs were hooked, so to speak, and a sequel was ordered before the first had even been released and arrived a year later, followed by another 8 sequels between 1992 and 2018. That's a lot of Hellraiser. And today, I'm going to be talking about all of it. For better or worse. Worse. It's definitely worse.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Hellraiser begins in Morocco, where we find Frank Cotton buying a mysterious puzzle box. Back in London, Frank retires to the attic for some sensual candle time, where he gently finesses the box until the puzzle is solved. Hope you win a prize! Yay! Sometime later in the same house, we meet Frank's brother Larry, his daughter Kirsty, and his partner Julia. Turns out Julia's still hung up on a steamy affair she had with Frank at some point, and she really seems to resent Larry for being a bit of a cuck. And certainly a bit of a pushover when compared to Frank's forceful, dominant eroticism. Larry cuts himself moving some furniture and proceeds to bleed all over the place. After spilling blood on the attic floor, Frank is painfully resurrected, but as a ghoulish husk of his former self. Barely formed. Incomplete. Frank confronts Julia and convinces her to assist with his restoration. This entails going out to bars to pick up lonely men to lure back to the attic. At which point Frank pops out to suck the life out of them, each life taken slowly regenerating his body. Frank explains to Julia that time is of the essence.
Cenobites. It's only a matter of time before they find I've slipped them.
They need to finish the regeneration process and escape before the Cenobites find and recapture him. Kirsty causes problems for Frank after busting Julia luring a random guy back to the house. Following her to the attic, Kirsty is confronted by Frank.
Come to Daddy.
Get the fuck off of me!
She throws the puzzle box out the window and makes her escape, collapsing soon after. Awakening in hospital, Kirsty solves the box, opens a portal to a hell dimension, and narrowly escapes whatever this thing is. She is then addressed by the leader of the Cenobites, affectionately known to the fans as Pinhead.
You solved the box. We came. Now you must come with us. Taste our pleasures.
They want to take Kirsty back to their dimension, but Kirsty informs them of Frank's escape and strikes a bargain. Frank's soul in exchange for hers. At first they don't believe her,
Nobody escapes us.
but then it turns out the Cenobites are just a bit shit at workplace admin.
Alive!
Kirsty returns home, where unbeknownst to her, Frank has killed Larry and is wearing his skin as a disguise. Frank and Julia attempt to attack Kirsty, but Frank stabs Julia during the confrontation. After which, he kills her with a big kiss.
It's nothing personal, babe.
He then chases Kirsty to the attic, where he's confronted and questioned by the Cenobites.
No.
Frank inadvertently confesses and has his soul torn apart.
Jesus wept.
Hellraiser fanatics will hate me for saying this, but after Frank's demise, I don't really like the rest of the film. It's not the worst, but this is where OG Hellraiser gets a little messy for my liking. The Cenobites decide to come after Kirsty anyway after recapturing Frank.
We have such sights to show you.
And the house starts collapsing as Kirsty banishes the Cenobites one by one. By fumbling around with a puzzle box. I think she's supposed to be undoing the puzzle that she did earlier, but it's really unclear in the plot of the movie and it just feels really lazy to me. Kirsty's love interest Steve arrives and they both escape the collapsing house. Yeah, there's a character called Steve, but I didn't mention him till now because he literally does nothing of consequence throughout the movie. Kirsty throws the puzzle box into a roaring fire, and then this random disheveled dude walks into the fire and retrieves it. He then turns into a dragon skeleton and flies away. What? We get this cheesy transition and it reveals that the puzzle box ended up back where it started, ready to be sold to another unsuspecting soul so the cycle of suffering can continue. Hellraiser is a wonderful little indie horror film featuring some truly stunning performances, great special effects, and iconic set, light, and creature designs. There's so many great elements here. Doug Bradley's commanding and unmistakable presence as the lead Cenobite, Claire Higgins as the diabolical Julia, a beautiful and intelligent but murderous simp for a cringe daddy dom. The face being pieced back together, the cold blue light that leaks through the cracks in the walls whenever the Cenobites are nearby, the reverse melting sequence when Frank is reborn, the gorgeous puzzle box design and the grotesque beauty and sensuality of the Cenobites, each one with their own distinctly tortured characteristics. There's also some problems here, and Hellraiser is by no means a perfect movie. Some of the acting is a little clunky, and the secondary characters are really underwritten. For example, Kirsty's boyfriend Steve. And as I said earlier, I have huge problems with the final climax of the film. It feels rushed, underthought, goofy, and the effects choices for the vanquished Cenobites are, pretty awful. Overall, Hellraiser delivers some striking and timeless iconography through a very simple family drama with some well-placed gore and cosmic horror elements to create something wholly its own. It's a wonderful low-budget horror movie from one of my all-time favourite authors, and I think the main reason that people are still talking about the Hellraiser franchise today. I'm giving it 8.5 pinheads out of 10. We start by getting subjected to a painfully long recap of stuff from the first movie, which is a sequel trait that I'm pretty sure most horror fans hate. Hellbound then opens proper in World War I, on a British military officer toying with the puzzle box in a ritual much like Frank in the first film. After opening the box, the man is brutally transformed into Pinhead. Kirsty is admitted into a psychiatric hospital directly following the events from the previous film. She tries to get a detective and doctors Channard and McRae to listen to her account of events, and concerns over the soiled furniture.
That mattress, you've got to destroy that mattress. See, Julia died on it, and she can come back now like Frank.
But they seem unreceptive.
You have got to destroy mattress!
Later, Kirsty meets a young patient named Tiffany, who's totally characterless, but a wizard with puzzles, I guess. How convenient. She then has a vision of her skinless father, who sends her the Hell Realm version of a direct message. The hospital's head surgeon, Dr. Channard, acquires the bloody mattress that Julia met her final demise on, and has it sent to his house. Turns out Channing is obsessed with all things Cenobite, and even has a collection of puzzle boxes.
Jesus Christ.
The good doctor convinces a patient prone to self-mutilation, named Mr. Browning, to lie on the mattress and just go to town on himself. Like with Frank in the first movie, the spilt blood resurrects a skinless Julia. The effects here are fantastic and far stronger than in the first film. You can really tell the budget was a bit higher. Julia is also a far more formidable and effective villain here than Frank in the original.
Wow.
And that's saying something, because Frank is great. Dr. McCrae, having snuck into Channard's house to investigate Kirsty's claims, witnesses the event and gets the fuck out of there to tell Kirsty. Channard is soon seduced by Julia and agrees to bring her more helpless patients to feed on. Kirsty and McCrae arrive at Channard's house to investigate, and Kirsty finds a photo of Elliot Spencer, or Pinhead before he was Pinhead. Soon McCrae is killed by Julia, and Kirsty gets KO'd. Channard and a now fully rejuvenated Julia kidnap Tiffany and force her to open the puzzle box so they can enter the Hell Realm, and the movie turns into R-rated Dark Crystal or the Labyrinth, as everyone including Kirsty enters. There's a big endless maze, spooky corridors, and a giant diamond-shaped puzzle box in the sky called Leviathan, which rotates slowly above the labyrinth.
The god I serve in this world and yours. The god of flesh, hunger and desire. My god. Leviathan, lord of the labyrinth.
Looks pretty shit, to be honest. Julia betrays Channard and he gets turned into a Cenobite after having his face squished with string. Julia reveals that she has a mission to bring souls to Leviathan. Kirsty encounters Frank, who reveals that he was posing as her father to bait her into the Hell Dimension. Julia arrives and vengefully annihilates Frank,
Nothing personal, babe.
allowing Kirsty to escape. Julia is then skinned and killed by a weird vortex thing. And that's it for the returning Cotton family plot. Kirsty and Tiffany attempt to escape, but get confronted by Cenobite Channard, who now has razor penises for fingers. Pretty cool, to be honest. The girls flee and run into Pinhead and the gang. Kirsty shows Pinhead a photo of himself when he was Elliot Spencer, and he gradually begins to remember that he was once human. Suddenly, Channard appears. We get an epic showdown to end all epic... Oh wait, they all get killed by penis razors. Never mind. Channard is now unchallenged, but Kirsty finds Julia's skin and wears it to distract him, while Tiffany fiddles around with the puzzle box, solving it. Channard is torn apart, the gateway between dimensions closes, and the surviving characters leave the hospital. Oh yeah, there's this extra ending bit with whatever this monstrosity is meant to be. Hellbound isn't a bad film by any means. It captures the tone and aesthetic of its predecessor very well, and in my opinion is the only sequel that genuinely feels attached to the original, in a stylistic and meaningful way. The first half of the film feels like a real companion piece to Hellraiser, and manages to be more gruesome, unsettling, and visceral than the first film in this section. Unfortunately, the Hell Dimension stuff doesn't work anywhere near as well as it should due to last-minute budgetary constraints. And it honestly comes across like a B-grade never-ending story or labyrinth for most of the film's second half because of this. Much like the last 10 minutes of the first film, the plot falls apart a bit here. But about 40 minutes earlier, the Frank posing as Larry twist is frustrating and disappointing, and the Pillar of Souls at the end looks like the Halloween version of a dollar store Christmas tree. Also, like in the first film, merely fiddling with the puzzle box sets everything back to normal. Not great, and certainly not timeless like the original, but not a bad companion piece to the OG Hellraiser, and the last truly cinematic feeling film in the series. I'm giving Hellbound 8 razor dicks out of 10. Pinhead, lost in New York, I mean, hell on earth, brings Hellraiser into the 90s, not with a bang, but with a perplexing... JP Monroe is an insufferable, edgy fuckboy hipster and owner of popular nightclub The Boiler Room. He's shopping for some creepy art and he ends up buying the Pillar of Souls from the end of the last movie.
How much you want for it?
Luckily, it looks much less janky now. We then meet our protagonist, an ambitious, young, investigative reporter, Joey.
No story, no life. Really, really pissed off.
Not that ambitious, I guess. After seeing a guy torn apart by chains in hospital, she meets a young woman named Terry who came in with the dead guy. She explains that the puzzle box is responsible and gives it to Joey,
He said it came out of this.
who starts investigating with her cameraman Doc. At JP's, Pinhead is resurrected in the Pillar of Souls after feasting on a young lady Monroe has just had a sexual encounter with. Pinhead quickly convinces JP to bring him more clubgoers to gobble up so he can be freed. In return, Pinhead promises Monroe power and unnatural delights. Joey has recurring nightmares about her father dying in Vietnam. During one such dream, Spencer contacts Joey. He tells her that without his humanity to act as a balancing influence, Pinhead is now pure evil and she must use the puzzle box to send him back to hell. Terry, believing Joey has abandoned her, is sweet-talked by ex-boyfriend Monroe into going to visit him. Monroe attempts to feed her to Pinhead, but she smashes him and feeds him to Pinhead instead. Very slowly. This frees Pinhead from the Pillar of Souls. And so ensues the club scene. AKA the single most ridiculous schlock you will ever see in a Hellraiser movie. Joey rocks up and Pinhead pursues her to acquire the puzzle box. He resurrects several of his recent victims as new Cenobites and they are the fucking worst, including Terry, Monroe, the barman, the DJ, and Doc.
Ready for your close-up, Joey?
Joey flees through the exploding New York streets, pursued by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Cenobites, who run into some cops along the way.
That's a wrap.
Joey enters a church to escape the chaos and meets a priest.
What's the matter? What on earth's the matter?
I have to get him back to my apartment.
Pinhead appears, goes all Freddy Krueger, defiles the church,
I am the way,
and tortures the priest. Joey flees to a construction site but is confronted by Gen X Cenobites.
Relax, baby. This is better than sex.
She kind of just yanks the puzzle box.
Play with this Pinhead!
Oh boy, this thing gets easier to solve every movie. And the Cenobites are sent to hell. Joey is then transported to another realm where she sees her father.
I do, it's a reward, oh daddy.
But it's actually Pinhead being cheeky. Pinhead goes to experience Joey's flesh, when suddenly they're both transported to yet another place.
Couldn't resist playing games, could you?
The Spencer part of Pinhead confronts him and the two fuse together. Joey breaks free and stabs Pinhead with a puzzle box, vanquishing him.
Go to hell.
What the fuck? Now, back at the construction site, she buries the box in a pool of concrete. Later, the finished building is revealed, with the interior designs much like those on the box. What? Pinhead Takes Manhattan, or Hell on Earth, is basically off its chops. It's so over the top, it's like Hellraiser 3 is punctured through into another cinematic universe, full of bad tropes and poorly recycled ideas from the first film. The characters are uncompelling, the writing is consistently lame, and by the third act feels more like a Ninja Turtles movie than fucking Hellraiser. I mean, check out the new Cenobites looking more like Bebop and Rocksteady than any of the classic Hellraiser Cenobite designs. Camerahead, Compact Disc Man, Siggy Lady, Barbed Wire Face Walking Molotov, and Fuckboy. All terrible, all wrong for Hellraiser. Also, Pinhead killing a bunch of people in a nightclub is impossible to take seriously. He talks too much, and by the time we get to the church, he seriously starts feeling more like Freddy than Pinhead. Lastly, he looks very silly while stuck in the Pillar of Souls. The whole Hell on Earth affair is painfully 90s, super Americanized, and incredibly cheesy. Luckily, everything wrong with Hellraiser 3 also makes it hilarious, and really enjoyable to watch as a B-grade schlock horror film. It's got out-of-place action, bad one-liners, cartoony gore, and while terrible, the script is very enjoyable in a so bad it's good kind of a way. This is why, despite its failure on almost every level to deliver as a Hellraiser movie, I'm giving it 7 CD faces out of 10 for how entertaining and silly it is. The film begins, but after the instant jump scare, we open in space, where we find engineer Dr. Paul Merchant aboard the space station the Minos, or Minos. I don't know, who fucking cares? He sealed himself in a room where he remotely maneuvers an exploding robot to open the puzzle box. Okay. Soldiers bust in and apprehend Merchant, at which point he begins his long-ass backstory.
Centuries ago, a man, an ancestor of mine,
which abruptly drops us in France, 1796. Meet Dr. Merchant's great whatever ancestor, Philip Le Marchand, the toy maker who built the original puzzle box, referred to for the first time here as the Lament Configuration. The libertine aristocrat guy who commissioned the box neglects to pre-inform Le Marchand that his specifications for the box actually make it a portal to hell. After delivering the box to Old Mate,
thank you,
Le Marchand witnesses a dark ritual in which the puzzle box is opened, and a demon named Angelique is summoned to fill the freshly flayed skin of a local woman. He runs home and starts working on blueprints for a second box, which will neutralize the effects of the first. Returning to the fancy mansion to steal back the original puzzle box for some reason, Le Marchand finds the aristocrat guy murdered, and is soon wounded mortally. At which point is informed that his bloodline is now cursed or something.
You and your bloodline cursed to the end of time because of your little puzzle box.
Now in 1996, Le Marchand's descendant, John Merchant, has built a skyscraper in Manhattan that's design strongly resembles that of the puzzle box. Angelique rocks up and pulls the Lament Configuration from Hell on Earth from the building's foundation. She tricks a random guy into opening it, which summons Pinhead and Doggo Bite? The two argue over who does demonic shit better.
Hell is more ordered since your time, princess.
As Angelique prefers the more traditional practices of subtle manipulation and inflicting psychological pain, while Pinhead just wants to dish out a gory mail order tearing a part of the soul. Despite this, the pair agree to team up with plans to kill Merchant before he can complete some good puzzle box thing called the Elysium Configuration, that defies the laws of physics by bouncing around light perpetually, which permanently closes all gateways to hell for some reason. The two then take a detour to watch Pinhead create a rubbery new Cenobite out of 2 twin security guards. Then, Angelique and the Cenobites attack. Merchant's janky prototype fails and Pinhead kills him.
No more games.
As Merchant's wife opens the puzzle box, sending Pinhead and Angelique back to hell. Finally, back in 2127, Pinhead and the Cenobites, now including Angelique, appear on the space station. After learning of Merchant's intentions, they kill the crew in an attempt to get to him and stop him. Pinhead confronts Merchant, but he turns out to be a hologram.
Where are you, Toymaker?
He boards an escape pod with a soldier lady and reveals that the whole space station is a good boy puzzle box, which he activates, killing Pinhead permanently. Bloodline is a terrible anthology movie, set in 3 different time periods, made by a special effects guy who quit halfway through filming, and some producers who finished it off. We've got Pinhead in 18th century France, we've got Pinhead in 1996, and we've got Pinhead in 2127. In space, Bloodline is an awful and poorly made film. Nothing works. Excluding Doug Bradley, all the performances are terrible. Even Adam Scott sucks here. The stuff from the past looks like something out of a daytime TV period drama, and feels so far away from Hellraiser that it may as well be in another fucking solar system. Speaking of which, the wraparound and showdown taking place in space in the distant future might be the single worst concept in all of Hellraiser history. And to make matters worse, they definitively kill Pinhead at the end with that perpetual light thingy. The bit in the 90s is honestly barely worth talking about. It's just a boring, lukewarm retread of things we've seen before, and like the sections that bookend it, really adds nothing of consequence to the narrative. Basically, the film is a jumbled, nonsensical mess, and it sounds like things weren't much better behind the scenes. The script was unfinished and unfocused, the cinematography and lighting totally off, and the studio started recutting the film without even telling the director. So he not only quit, but demanded to have his name completely scrubbed from the film, dooming Hellraiser 4 to the John Doe-style Alan Smithy director's credit. So yeah, apart from the Angelique Cenobite design and Pinhead, there's really nothing but pain and sadness to be found in this, the final Hellraiser film to get a cinematic release. Unfortunately, Bloodline doesn't even come close to being the worst film in the Hellraiser series. There is much pain ahead. Nevertheless, I'm giving Hellraiser Bloodline 4 Dogobytes out of 10. We now enter the Miramax Dimension straight-to-video era of Hellraiser. A realm where budgets swiftly diminish, and multiple pre-existing unrelated dusty old scripts get Hellraiser jammed into them by producers, like a pack of drooling toddlers forcefully shoving the wrong puzzle pieces into a jigsaw. It's also a soulless corporate landscape where franchise rights must be retained at all costs. Pre-existing lore and iconography be damned. With all that in mind, let's talk about the first of many Hellraiser films in this period to be adapted from an irrelevant script and dumped straight onto video. Can I stop now? Can I please stop now?
No, you must endure the pain.
Hellraiser Inferno fucking sucks. And the best news is, this is probably close to the best of the straight-to-video films. Yay! Joseph Thorne is a corrupt Denver police detective, a total dick and a massive wanker, who regularly indulges in the same nose candy that he probably busts people for all the time. And has a penchant for planting evidence and roughhousing.
So are you gonna frisk me or fuck me?
Ow! What the hell?
He also regularly cheats on his wife.
What if she doesn't know? If doing this keeps me coming back, and who is to say what's right and what's wrong?
At least he's good at chess? Thorne attends the scene of a grisly-looking ritualistic murder where the puzzle box is found, and ends up lifting it and some sweet, sweet dollars from a wallet and evidence lockup, because he loves puzzles. And money. Thorne solves the puzzle box while chilling in a bathroom after an encounter with a sex worker, and... Huh? Instead of chains and shit attacking him, he soon starts seeing weird Silent Hill looking shit everywhere. And it all gets a bit Jacob Slater meets Seven from here. He gets flesh fondled by some sexy Cenobite dominatrixes, chased by half a chatterer, and a killer he's investigating called the Engineer is killing people he's connected to. One of whom prank calls him. Also, Pinhead pops up every now and then to remind us that it's a fucking Hellraiser movie. A bunch of dumb, waking dream fake-out shit happens too. And cowboy demons? Thorne spends most of the remaining running time being a confused dick, racing around looking for the Engineer. Some other pointless shit happens and then we get to the final act. This whole time, Thorne's been getting therapy for his hallucinations, and in a lame twist, the psychiatrist reveals himself through some really bad CGI to be Pinhead. The Hellpriest informs Thorne that he's been in hell or whatever since opening the box, and it's just been Pinhead fucking with him the whole time. The Engineer, just a manifestation of Thorne's own dickishness and cruelty. He gets hooked with chains in the only part of the film that manages to actually feel like Hellraiser and gets ripped apart. Then he wakes up, and the whole thing starts over again. Presumably to cycle forever. No! What an absolute dirty, diaper-filled dumpster fire of a Hellraiser movie. Thorne is thoroughly unlikable. The psychological thriller plot doesn't blend at all with the franchise lore. The budget is jarringly and noticeably feeble compared to the previous films in the series. And Pinhead has been recontextualized as some kind of biblical morality enforcer instead of just showing up all indifferent to, tear the souls apart. He's just meant to be doing his job, eh? Also, the Jacob Slater ending? Totally unacceptable. Maybe this whole film would have worked better without Hellraiser jammed into it at all. Or perhaps it could have been better with a more generous budget. One thing's for sure, Inferno, while awful, marks the last time we'll see any real atmosphere or effort at all put into a franchise entry until maybe the very last film. With all that said, I truly loathe this film. I'm sorry, but it just really doesn't feel like a Hellraiser movie to me, like, at all. It's also just incredibly boring and miserable to sit through. This film to me really marks the death knell for the original Hellraiser film series, and I'm giving it 4 sneaky bumps out of 10. Hellseeker is basically Inferno again, but shitter. Okay, that's it, thanks, bye! In all seriousness though, after the initial intro, it really feels like you're watching the movie that you just watch all over again. It's fucked. Also, a guy named Rick Boda made this one and the next 2 after it, and his films are fucking garbage. He has no kind of nuanced understanding of Hellraiser lore, and to make matters worse, he generally has no idea how to make a movie. Trevor is taking a drive with his wife Kirsty from the first film. Yeah, they shoved more Hellraiser into this one, but not in any meaningful way. The car crashes into a river and Kirsty is apparently drowned. A month later, Trevor wakes up in hospital, but now he has amnesia. Soon, we're put through the same Jacob's Ladder twists and turns as Inferno, but this time much more punishing. The whole film after Trevor wakes up is bridged together by fake-out dream transition after fake-out dream transition. In between which, Trevor has a bunch of joyless sex with random women, gets jump-scared by Cenobites, and becomes the prime suspect in a series of murders. A pair of cops investigate Trevor throughout the film and eventually bring him into the station, where the police brutality seems a little extra today. They take him downstairs to identify a body. There, the cops are revealed to be a conjoined CGI monster that looks like dog shit.
And we're made up of just the right parts of both.
And Trevor flees to the morgue in apparent disgust at the horrible creature effects. The Cenobites appear and Pinhead reminds Trevor that he's way more of a dick than he remembers. Turns out he was sleeping around, and he tried to get Kirsty to open the puzzle box in an attempt to skip divorce proceedings, by way of cosmic homicide. Also, for the sweet life insurance money. Unfortunately for him, after opening the puzzle box, Kirsty made a deal with the Cenobites. 5 souls in exchange for her own.
You would bring them to me yourself.
You'll get your 5.
By literally murdering people. That's right, Kirsty was the killer the whole time. Way to turn a beloved franchise character into a murderous serial killer. And also, since when is that how it works? You don't just kill people for the Cenobites. Trevor gets chained, but it's another fake out. He then finally uncovers the cadaver on the table and... it's him! Kirsty shot him for Pinhead or some shit and he's been in hell this whole time. That's right, we get the same ending as the previous installment almost exactly. After learning the horrible truth, the chains come out and Trevor's soul is ripped apart. The film ends with Kirsty getting the puzzle box back from the cops for some reason, and literally getting away with multiple murders. Hellraiser Inferno 2 Satanic Boogaloo, I mean Hellseeker, is just appalling on every level. It's again developed from an irrelevant psychological horror script that has Hellraiser crammed up it. The Hellraiser stuff, while more plentiful, meshes less effectively here than it does in Inferno. The constant fake-out transitions get legitimately exhausting. And Trevor manages to be more of a loathsome dickface throughout than Detective Thorne in the previous, both in writing and performance. I really have little more to say about this one except don't watch it. It's garbage, which is all it deserves being the low-effort, no-passion monstrosity that it is. I feel quite sorry for the returning actress playing Kirsty here. She's really underutilized and her character is ruined. I hope the Cenobites at Miramax paid her well. I'm giving this one 3 beloved characters ruined by sequels out of 10. Deader is perhaps the most perplexing film of them all. Also, it opens with the scariest thing in the whole film. The Miramax logo. The yet again pre-existing script having Pinhead smashed against it is more frustrating, unbalanced and disjointed here than ever before. It also recycles some of the worst ideas from other Hellraiser movies. For instance, this time we follow spunky investigative reporter Amy, like in Hell on Earth. Great. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Amy is sent on assignment in Bucharest by her boss, Charles, to investigate a videotape depicting the ritualistic murder and subsequent reanimation of a member of a cult calling themselves Deaders.
Tell me this is some kind of special effect.
Yeah, it is, and it's pretty shit. Amy tracks down the return address of the sender of the videotape, where she discovers Marla, apparently dead, holding the puzzle box. Jump scare! Amy takes the box to her hotel, where she watches a videotape in which Marla warns her not to open the box.
And above all, don't open the box. He needs for you to open the box, but don't.
And then she opens the box.
Bitch, are you for real?
CGI chains pull her hair, and then Pinhead appears for a sec.
Don't think for a moment you are not in danger.
But it's a dream or something. Not this shit again. Not 3 movies in a row. Amy snoops around a rave train and some other places.
They were thinking of shipping you off to the government asylum for observation. Believe me, you go in there, you don't come out.
Eventually leading her to Winter Lemachand, descendant of the box maker and leader of the Dead Occult. Winter wants to summon the Cenobites and take dominion over them, but he can't open it himself. Seriously? Just rub it a bit, or jerk it around. That worked in part 3.
Play with this Pinhead.
He's about to do the murder resurrection thing to Amy when... Stop! Everything gets all Jacob's ladder. Again. Fuck! Amy goes to sleep and gets shanked by forces unseen. After which we get treated to some slapstick. Hilarious! Also, the wound never stops bleeding. LOL. Anyway, Amy has some flashbacks and remembers murdering her dad. Whatever. And it turns out, the whole movie after the ritual has been in Amy's mind. After returning to real-world consciousness, she successfully opens the puzzle box by throwing it like a fucking baseball. And summons the Cenobites. Pinhead roasts Winter and then does the whole hooks and chains bit.
Can't hurt me. You're not the first to say that.
He then kills the cult leader's followers with huge CGI chains, and it is hilarious. The Cenobites try to take Amy, but she stabs herself. And her death causes the box to close for some reason and vanquishes the Cenobites. Fuck you, the end. This one just doesn't fly as Hellraiser at all for me, hey. It's clearly a Lovecraftian cosmic horror story about cultists that's been clumsily run through the blender while adding a dash of spoiled, lukewarm Hellraiser every 20 minutes or so. The effects suck. The incohesive story sucks. The acting really fucking sucks. And there's not even enough Pinhead in this one to keep the most rabid Barker fan invested. It's just horrendous, dull, and insulting to anyone still watching the franchise at this point. And I'm giving it 2 CGI chains out of 10. The 8th and worst film in the Hellraiser series is set in a poorly formed metaverse, in which the Hellraiser franchise exists through a video game called Hellworld. It's kinda like that new Matrix movie. A group of friends addicted to the Hellworld video game attend their friend Adam's funeral after his suicide, apparently caused by his obsession with said game. The friends lament, blaming themselves for not having prevented his death.
We were all addicted to Hellworld, man.
He's right, Mike. You should have seen this coming.
2 years later, they get secret invites to a special Hellworld-themed party in an old mansion. Once there, the group are greeted by the middle-aged party host, Lance Henriksen. And yes, I will be referring to him as Lance Henriksen. He offers them all drinks, shows them around the mansion, and then gives them all nifty masks and brick phones so they can communicate with the other guests.
Everybody gets a mask and a cell phone. Each mask has a 4-digit number on it. You wish to engage in the pleasures that only flesh can bring. You pick a tasty morsel, dial that number.
Sweet! So they split up and one by one get slain by Lance and Pinhead, who kill them in stupid, uncreative ways. Like this meat cleaver. And this saw trap. Pinhead sort of just appears, runs off stupid one-liners written by a 5-year-old, and kills people Michael Myers style.
Do you believe Adam now, Allison?
It's really bad and not like Hellraiser in any way. To compound the awfulness, we soon get a lame-ass twist where we find out that Lance is Adam's dad out for revenge. Not only this though, so we set up the party, drugged all the main characters, buried them, and nothing after that has been real. No Cenobites, no Pinhead, it's all just Daddy Dearest talking to them on cell phone.
It was through these cell phones I could communicate subliminal suggestions.
3 of them die in their coffins for various convoluted reasons.
Allison severely gouged herself trying to claw off her imaginary neck device and bled to death. Derek's ass splinter came out. And Mike, he died of good old-fashioned drop-dead fear.
But the survivor girl and this guy get rescued by the cops, who apparently got tipped off by Adam's ghost or some shit. Fucking horrible. Later, Lance Henriksen sits in a hotel room going through a suitcase that contains Adam's possessions. He finds the puzzle box and opens it, summoning the real Cenobites. He gets cut to pieces as Pinhead utters the saddest final line that an iconic horror character will ever utter on film.
How's that for a wake-up call?
Also, jump scare. Hellworld is a Hellraiser movie devoid of Hellraiser, or anything else for that matter. It's a slasher movie where Pinhead pops up a bunch of times to kill college students and deliver terrible one-liners. A bad April Fool's joke where you think you're getting Pinhead but it all turns out to be nonsensical garbage. About video games, premature burial, and hallucinating that has nothing to do with the Cenobites or Hellraiser. A hopelessly bungled failure at an attempt at metatext, as a Hellraiser film, and as a feature film in general. I honestly hate it more than any other film in any horror franchise. -1 terrible one-liners out of 10. At least this marks the last film in the series directed by the unfathomably terrible Rick Boda. It can only get better from here, right? Fuck! Before I start this next one, I gotta say, I really don't enjoy loathing these later films in the franchise, and I really genuinely enjoy all the mythology that the franchise is built on. But at this point, these films are becoming easier and stupider targets than the Stoner Sloth.
Stoner Sloth.
What? Unlike the last 4 films, this one was scripted as a Hellraiser film and is kinda like a reboot, or soft reboot of the original film. But shit! Steve Craven and Nico Bradley bring on the suffering immediately in the form of some found footage. Yeah! They're also the worst. They head to Tijuana. Ugh. Where they film themselves engaging in several days worth of drunken douchebaggery before their car disappears.
The fucking car, man! It's been jacked! I don't believe this. I don't fucking believe this.
Suddenly we cut to the boys playing with the puzzle box, and a guy in Pinhead cosplay rocks up.
The box.
Then they disappear. The boys' belongings, including the camera and tape, are returned to the parents. I'd be sadder about the car, honestly. A year later, the families of the 2 missing boys gather for dinner. We randomly cut to knock off Pinhead listening in every now and then for no good reason.
An adult would have shown some sympathy and kindness towards her instead of worrying about herself the whole time.
I guess cause Hellraiser. Emma, Steven's sister and Nico's girlfriend, later sneaks a look at the holiday tape, which documents Nico and Steven picking up a girl in a bar.
Yeah! Dude, we're connecting! We're communicating!
We cut to a flashback of Nico having killed the girl after having sex in the bar's toilet.
What did you do? What the fuck did you do? I didn't do anything. It was a total accident, okay?
Steven wants to go to the cops, but Nico spins some bullshit about him being an accomplice or something.
You know what they do to gringos in Mexico? That's not what it looks like. Check the fucking video. You're an accomplice now, motherfucker.
What the hell happened? How did they get from bar murder to the lament configuration? Back in the present, Emma finds the puzzle box and kinda half opens it, and no Cenobites? Instead, Steven suddenly appears out of nowhere, smeared in blood. The families try to rush into the hospital, but soon discover that their cars have vanished. Steven warns of the oncoming Cenobites, and we get a flashback of the boys bargaining for the puzzle box. It's revealed that Nico opened the puzzle box and suffered the Frank special while Steven fled. Later, a distraught Steven hires a sex worker, and Nico somehow communicates with him, convincing him to kill her. Nico then emerges from the bloody bed, even though he died in a completely different place. Whatever. After the flashback, Steven passes out.
They want to experience your flesh.
Great acting. Emma fumbles with the puzzle box again, causing extreme horniness. She creeps on Nico's father, and then has a disturbingly intimate interaction with her brother. Luckily, it's interrupted by Emma having a Cenobite hallucination. Nico's father goes outside to confront a random creepy guy and shoots him, but it does fuck all, and he gets his face cut up for his troubles and dies from it somehow.
Peter! Peter!
Stephen then retrieves a shotgun and busts a cap at his dear old dad. Before holding the rest of the household at gunpoint.
Fuck up, little girl!
More flashbacks where Stephen feeds several more women to Nico, but is killed for refusing to continue before Nico's regeneration is complete.
I've given you the shirt off my back.
No! It's not the shirt off your back that I want.
Predictably, the Stephen holding the family at gunpoint is revealed to be Nico wearing Stephen's skin. He taunts the families with edgy dialogue.
That mine was the first cock she ever sucked.
He reveals that Stephen's father and Nico's mother were having an affair, which is never even hinted at throughout the rest of the film.
Sorry that you were fucking around on her, or sorry you just got caught?
He makes Emma open the puzzle box with hopes to exchange his soul for hers. The bargain bin Cenobites appear, along with some chains and mist, and fake Pinhead delivers the worst performance possibly imaginable.
Trade? No.
Nico's mother is given the old STFU.
He made her open the box!
The Cenobites refuse Nico's trade and put the chains to him.
This trinket of sensation you feel now will be a delight compared to the onslaught of agony that awaits at our hands.
But Emma's dad shoots him before the torture is concluded. Cheaper by miles, Pinhead cracks the shits and takes his wife in place of Nico. Emma and her father are sent back to the human realm where the dad dies. And Emma immediately reaches for the puzzle box.
Bitch, are you for real?
Really? Really? What a stinker. Made for a measly $300,000, Revelations was very obviously and shamelessly created solely so Dimension Films could hold on to the rights to Hellraiser, despite having no plans to do anything of value or consequence with the property. They offered Doug Bradley basically nothing, like $5,000 or something, which is specifically why he's not in this one. Well, he says it's because he hated the script, but would you even read the script after an insulting offer like that? Speaking of which, the script is jumbled and unoriginal. The dialogue is edgy and cringe. The found footage stuff is so cheap and nasty, and 100% of the acting is off the chain bad.
They want to experience your flesh.
Pinhead looks like a cartoon version of himself and sounds more like Emperor Palpatine than he does like Pinhead.
The onslaught of agony that awaits at our hands.
Execute Order 66.
The effects are cheap, the outfits are cheap, and Chatterer doesn't even chatter anymore. On the plus side, this is the closest feeling thing to an actual Hellraiser movie since Bloodline. It was scripted as a Hellraiser, and despite its overwhelming and inignorable flaws as a movie, it does at the very least go back to the classic themes of seeking sensation, betrayal, family drama, and the Cenobites appearing specifically to fuck you up. But only at your own behest, not acting as some kind of puritanical overbearing force of judgment and morality, like in the last slab of straight-to-video films. Still, not even having more Hellraiser can save this cheap, nasty, penny-pinching manure pile of a movie from going down as the most universally hated entry in the series. I still like it more than any of the Rick Boda directed ones, even with the tiny budget and the cosplay Pinhead outfit. It's a grotty piece of trash, but it's still more of a Hellraiser movie than the last 3 Doug Bradley ones. No fault of his own, of course. I'm giving Revelations 3.5 fanfiction Pinheads out of 10. We're finally here, bit wary, bit hungover, at the last film in the original Hellraiser franchise. And this time, it's written and directed by longtime behind-the-scenes Hellraiser collaborator, Gary J. Tunnicliffe. Tunnicliffe has done makeup effects on every film since Hell on Earth, this one included, and wrote the original script for Revelations. Regrettably, he was unable to direct that one due to contractual obligations tying him to working on Scream 4, and his script was retooled and turned into the abomination we ended up with. This time though, he's in full control with a better script and a much improved fake Pinhead. Speaking of which, we open right away on Pinhead and his new mate, the Auditor, having a very boomer chat about how kids these days, with their smartphones, TikToks and Pac-Man video games, just don't have time for that dusty old puzzle box anymore.
Obsolete.
irrelevant. Technology may have advanced, but sin remains unchanged.
They're trying out a new system where they send vague as fuck letters to people.
Come to 55 Ludovico Place. Alone, now. A sympathetic friend.
And it works. We're then put through the unbridled yuckiness of the Cenobite's new and surprisingly bureaucratic soul-collecting process. First, we hang out with the auditor as he interrogates this creepy guy.
August 18th, 2001, you lured little Courtney Redless into your car. Why?
The writer-director plays the auditor and through great makeup and a fantastic performance, creates a wonderful new character worthy of Hellraiser canon. Sadly, the mood swifts into gross-out mode swiftly, as the pages detailing the creepy guy's sins are delivered to this guy, who proceeds to smash them into his face with the help of some edgy condiments.
Tears of children.
He pukes down some pipes and some naked murder ladies stick their hands in the vault. They deliver a verdict, and the creepy guy is taken to be cleaned. With spit. After freshening up, he's taken to chill with this big guy. When... surprise! A hidden gimp pops out and slices the dude up. The guy bleeds everywhere, the blood sprays on the murder lady's boobs, and the credits roll. Sweet relief! Meanwhile, somewhere else, 3 detectives, brothers Sean and David Carter and Christine Edgerton, investigate a serial killer known as the Perceptor, whose murders are based on the 10 Commandments, which is kind of like a homage to... it's like Seven, it's pretty much just like Seven! A connection with one of the victims leads them to a criminal who went missing near a seemingly abandoned house. Sean goes there solo to investigate and passes out after hearing a nice lullaby. Waking up in the house, the Inquisition process starts again.
That was too much. You have purged from yourselves the guilt of shedding innocent blood.
But this time, Sean's crimes are a little too rich for the paper eater. As the Cenobites prepare to deliver a verdict, an actual fucking angel shows up and tells them they have to release Sean.
Let him go. He has no business here.
Before they can, he steals the puzzle box, kills the cleaning crew, and escapes. He then collects his brother, bringing him back to the house, and there's no evidence of the Cenobites.
Did you put an offer in yet? Or are you in escrow?
Fuck. Sean and Christine go to the coroner's office and find the cell phone of one of the Perceptor's victims shoved down her throat.
We found this in her esophagus.
Recording her final location with its GPS. They find the Perceptor's hideout and Sean knocks out Christine.
Holy shit.
Revealing himself to be the killer, which is really obviously hinted at throughout the film. David figures out his brother is the Perceptor and rushes to the hideout.
I called Hodges to get the address.
Quite the detective.
Upon arrival, Sean disarms David and reveals his own wife, Allison.
I didn't say touch her!
And his knowledge of them having an affair. He forces them to open the puzzle box at gunpoint, summoning the Cenobites. Sean attempts to offer Allison and David in hopes of sparing his own soul.
So good to see you again. And you bought friends.
I brought them to trade for me.
There is no bargaining to be done.
Pinhead takes the cheating couple, but refuses the deal.
Amateurs.
Sean gets chained up and ready to torture when the fucking angel intervenes again and demands that Sean be freed.
Send him back.
Pinhead obliges, but Sean is immediately killed by Christine upon his return. The angel gets pissed.
You will suffer.
Suffer. Me.
And Pinhead cracks the shits and gives her the hook and chain treatment instead.
Jesus.
Recycled lines. Remember Hellraiser? If angels didn't feel out of place enough for you in Hellraiser, wait until you get a load of this. As punishment for death meddling the angel, God expels Pinhead from hell and turns him back into a normal human.
The sweet suffering.
Well, it's certainly a bold choice. Oh yeah, there's an after credits sequence like it's a fucking Marvel movie or something.
And it isn't even a Tuesday.
Great! Hellraiser Judgment isn't a fantastic movie. It's still cheap, still rushed, and still owned by Dimension. Having said that, I think Gary J. Tunnicliffe is really passionate and definitely means well. And having done makeup effects for the last 6 films, he really seems to understand the aesthetic of Hellraiser. But he's done something here that feels more tied to Inferno than any of the classic Hellraiser lore. There's a lot to like here. New Bargain Bin Pinhead is much better than the one in Revelations, and the Auditor is just a wonderful little character and a great addition to Cenobite mythology. It looks pretty nice, and the acting and effects are pretty decent given the time and budget constraints. However, the gross out stuff, the puke, the naked ladies wading through the puke, the spit, it's all just way too drawn out and needlessly disgusting without adding anything scary or unsettling. Also, the whole replacing the puzzle box with letters, bodily fluids, and saw traps thing, it's pretty fucking silly. The detective serial killer thing is done okay, but it feels way too close to Seven or Saw in theme and tone. And the ending? Oh, the sweet suffering! Judgment is pretty underwhelming, but in my opinion, it's also the strongest entry in the Hellraiser series since the original trilogy. And I'm giving it 5 auditors out of 10. So there you have it, the entire Hellraiser franchise from 1987 to 2018. 10 cosmic body horror films of varying quality. 4 cinema releases, 6 straight to video stores. Most of it sucks, but what doesn't is wonderful, creative, original, and beautifully grotesque. And the best of it is some of my all-time favourite cinema. The first 3 films with Clive Barker attached are far superior to everything afterwards. Especially the first 2. The 4th film acts as an unfocused and disappointing omen of things to come. Inferno is passable, but barely classifies as a Hellraiser movie. The Rick Boda trilogy is exceedingly horrendous with every entry. Probably could have been a bit more detailed with the plot points for those ones. Like in Hellseeker, when Trevor colludes with this guy he works with to get Kirsty's life insurance, and when the cops get too close, he shoots himself. It just feels really pointless going deep on plot points when most everything turns out to be a dream, hell, or a hallucination in the end. Revelations is basically a glorified fan film, and Judgment is a decent movie and a stylistic return to form of sorts, but lacks the depth and originality to be particularly memorable due to its Saw-like tone and obvious parallels to Seven. Those are my thoughts, and this is my final rating and personal ranking of all the films. Hope you enjoyed the video. It certainly wasn't an easy undertaking, and I'd probably rather tie my girl dick to a ceiling fan and turn it on than do it again. So much pain, so much suffering! If you'd like to support the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that stuff. Next time, I'll be opening up the puzzle box again and bringing you a video on the brand new Hellraiser reboot. Thanks for watching Trash Cinema. I've been your Hell Priestess of Horrors, Scarlet Shred, and until next time, goodbye, don't die!